Hey everybody, Bacon here, and I've got a continuation of my last video for you guys on the information war in Hearthstone. So if you missed the first video, we put it out I believe like 3 days ago, and it's talking about how to get information on your opponent's hand. So little tips and tricks on how to tell what exactly their hand is made up of, so you can make informed choices based on that information. So if you haven't seen that video, I'll put the link in the description, or it'll be playing at the end of this video. So I highly recommend you check it out if you're interested in this one. But what we got today is sort of the counterpoint to that, which is instead of how to get information on your opponent's hand, we're going to be talking about how to deny your opponent information about your hand. So in Hearthstone, there's a lot of emphasis put on making the right play. And oftentimes there's a mathematically correct play to make. And I'm not denying that. There's almost always like one just correct play. It might be correct by like 1 percentage point, it might be correct by 50. But there's almost always one play that is just right. But the thing is, doing the right plays will only get you so far. So you can play perfectly in terms of like making the right decisions, but you can be giving up a lot of percentage points in how you're making those plays. So the tips we're going to be focusing on today are going to be little things you can do, little mechanical things you can do to deny your opponent information on what you have in your hand and how you might play out the game. So let's go right over to tip number 1. All right, everybody, so tip number 1 is do not touch your cards until you are ready to play them. And really the reason why we want to do this is because you can give away a lot of information based on your actions before playing your turn. So for example here, we really want to roll spell damage, and then if we roll spell damage, then we can play the Spirit Claws and clear the 2/5. If we don't roll spell damage, then we can't. So if we just said, well, let's see if we roll spell damage, and then make our decision. If we did that, then basically what happens is we give away the information that we have the Spirit Claws in our hand. Because something I see all the time is people who do this thing where they start their turn, they roll a totem, see what totem they roll, and then there's another like 4 seconds before they make a decision. And I look at that and I was like, well, you either have like a lightning bolt, a maelstrom portal, lightning storm, Spirit Claws, like whatever would be best in that situation. It's almost certain that you have that in your hand right now because of the way you played that turn out. So the way I like to think about this is you kind of want to play Hearthstone like touch move in chess, where in chess if you touch your piece, you have to move that piece, right? So basically, we don't want to touch any of our cards without knowing that we're going to be using them. For example, like if I point this over here, oh well, they know I have a lightning bolt. Now, like you feel you aren't actually committed to using it, but oh, that was a terrible play. That's what I get for talking. You aren't actually committed to using it, but it just gives away so much information about your hand if you don't now use that spell. So yeah, tip 1 is do not touch your cards before you plan your entire turn, and especially for like playing Shaman, you want to plan your turn based on RNG outcomes. So you want to know what you're going to do if I roll spell damage or if I don't roll spell damage. So yeah, tip number 1, don't touch your cards, think through your whole turn. So tip number 2 is we're going to be dealing with Discover. So with Discover, you often get a lot of great choices, but the length of time you spend actually discovering something can really, play a part in letting your opponent know what's going on with your hand. Like, for example, if we snap took this power overwhelming and then held it for a while, then that sort of gives away to our opponent that we are holding the, or that we're getting. Sorry. Okay, if we snap picked that power overwhelming and then held it for a while, the opponent knows that well, one is really easy to spend a 1 mana card, right? It doesn't, it's not very impactful on your turn to spend a 1 mana card. We instantly picked it. Therefore, if it isn't gone, shortly after we got it, then it is probably a power overwhelming or a soulfire to go with our Leroy combo. So the length of time that you spend on each discover effect can sort of give your opponent information on what type of card it is. Like, for example, if we didn't snap pick it, if we took a bit longer, maybe if we like roped out our turn because of it.
Choose soon.
Yeah, if we like roped out our turn because of it, and then made our decision, it's possible that they think, wow, they've got some really bad choices, and the reason they're not playing that discovered card is because it's like like the 1/2 Murloc, and then that explains what's going on there. So the third tip I got for you guys is doing some bluffing. Now, bluffing is it's a pretty important part of many card games, but it's sort of something that's overlooked in Hearthstone. And some of the best ways you can bluff, I find, are with secrets. So, for example, if you're playing Hunter versus Shaman, Shaman coins out a Totem Golem on turn 1, and then you answer with any secret. You just do that so quick. Turn comes around, you play any secret, maybe even give them, like a Happy Feast of Wintervale, and then they cannot attack with it because they are assuming it's going to be a Totem Golem. Freezing trap. Freezing trap. And getting your Totem Golem freezing trapped is really detrimental. But it's also detrimental not attacking with your Totem Golem because you think that explosive trap is freezing, or that snake trap or that snipe or whatever. So if you make that snap decision on playing the trap, then they're a lot less likely to attack into it rather than if you rope out your turn, or if you act hesitant to play the trap, because really that's like your best case scenario against the Totem Golem. Now, I mean, you can maybe like mind game a bit off this, whereas if you're playing against like a really skilled player, they might call your bluff on the snap freezing trap, but so then you might want to delay it a little bit, but or act like your freezing trap is actually an explosive. Another way you can bluff in Hearthstone is by tactically using the hovering over of your cards. So, like, for example, going into turn 7 when you're playing Mage, you could hover over one card in your hand. Think maybe make your opponent think maybe that's a Flame Strike. Maybe I should be careful, and it doesn't have to be a Flame Strike. Just by doing that, you make them question putting more minions on the board. So it's the threat of Flame Strike that's really, really a big deal there, not exactly if you have the Flame Strike or not. So these are just a few examples of how you can bluff in Hearthstone, how you can conceal information from your opponent in Hearthstone, and how you can get an edge by doing so. If you have any tips for me on how you can do any of these things, I'd love to hear them. So put those in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and we'll see you guys next time.